Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Untangle 101 webinar series. Today we'll be discussing the NG Firewall product, which is a network security solution. So if you're not familiar with Untangle or networking concepts or how our solution can help your business, then this webinar is perfect for you. I also have Chad McNaughton here, who's our sales engineer. He'll be taking us through the presentation and the demonstration later on today. My name is Shannon Bonfiglio, and I'm the host here. So if you have any questions, please be sure to submit them in the Q&A box on the right-hand side. We do have a few staff members on hand to help answer those questions. So please be sure to just type those into the questions panel. And also be sure you're selecting the correct audio preference. Many of you use your computer speakers, but if you do want to use a telephone, you will need to use the access code provided. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to rewatch or revisit areas or share the recording later on. The link will be available within 24 hours after this event has ended, and it's uploaded onto the Untangle YouTube channel. And with that, I will pass it over to Chad.
All right, thanks, Shannon. And thanks everybody for hopping on. As Shannon said, this is Untangle 101, Intro to Untangle. Any longtime customers, this is gonna be pretty boring. You may already be tired of my voice if you're a longtime customer. So what we wanna kind of go through real quick, we'll start with some just cybersecurity statistics for small to medium businesses. As you can see here, the numbers are getting kind of scary, I guess. 58% of malware ransomware victims are categorized as small businesses, and you see below that 51% of small to medium business leaders are convinced their business is not a target for cyber criminals. That right there makes you a perfect target for cyber criminals, unfortunately. And I understand that. A lot of small business owners don't know they need something like Untangle, so it can be a tough thing to basically just present out of the blue. So Untangle itself, as Shannon said, is just a network security solution. We're looking at software installed on our hardware, your hardware, virtualized in the cloud. This is all becoming very crucial in 2018 because, as you can see on my screen, there is no company that is not a target now. The malware ransomware threats continue to rise in the SMB segment. There's been an increase in crypto mining malware. This is nasty as it steals all the resources from your local machines, whatever's basically attacked. Phishing emails are always an easy attack on SMBs, and they're a target and don't realize it, and that's a big problem. So Untangle is basically a multi-pronged attack for cybersecurity. So we'll talk about things like content filtering, bandwidth control, mobile app filtering, firewall. Untangle's not just a firewall or a content filter anymore. It's what's called a unified threat management device. So this is a UTM officially. So small to medium businesses are at a pretty big disadvantage when it comes to cybersecurity, and a lot of that is just due to lack of resources and expertise. Not all small businesses even have an IT department, let alone a network admin or something like a CISO. So this can be a daunting thing to undertake for Joe Blow, the small business owner. Untangle is a really, really cool solution for that specific user environment because it's so simple to deploy and so simple to use. I like to say Untangle is one of the easiest products in our industry to drive. If you want to take a test drive, it's a real simple thing to do. Some of the stats here, just some of the share of businesses that are agreeing they won't invest on improving IT security, regardless of the return on investment. That's a pretty big number, right? So obviously, some businesses are more aware than others, and they're just a little more savvy when it comes to cybersecurity. But it's time for everyone to realize that we're all targets now. So even a little company like Untangle, we have 50 employees, and we work in network security and build this product. And obviously, we're a target, but that's just because we're a small business with a public IP address. That makes you a target now. As you can see there on the right, 61% of breaches have hit small businesses. 90% of those small businesses don't use any data protection. So that's a problem. If you get ransomed, you don't have backups. 60% of SMBs can go out of business within 6 months of an attack like this. If you're a small business, if it's a little insurance office, a dentist office with 5-6 employees, yes, 1 ransomware attack, phishing attack could bankrupt you, unfortunately. You know, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was a school district out here in Boulder, Colorado that got phished for almost $1 million over a series of emails for a few months. And that's a very unfortunate thing, and it's probably coming down to user education. Data breaches have cost SMBs about $117,000 on average per breach. So do that math. You know, if you're a real small business, could you take a $100,000 hit? I don't know. So something like Untangle will prove its value almost immediately, I think, in the small business market. You also see my little link here, percent of web pages loaded by Firefox using HTTPS. If you click on this, it'll take us out to let'sencrypt.org stats. What we're looking at here is the number of actual page loads that are using HTTPS now. So this is coming from Firefox's telemetry team. This is really important data because what this is showing is that we're actually seeing a huge increase in HTTPS encryption on the internet. That's a good thing for all of us as internet users, as small business owners, but it's going to require something like Untangle to decrypt a lot of this stuff so we can scan for viruses that contain malware and things like that. So decrypting HTTPS has become almost a required element in 2018. I feel like it's required for Untangle specifically because that enables our virus blocker, our web filter, pretty much every app there is to pile onto HTTP. You can see HTTPS encryption in the United States has doubled in about 2.5 years. We're at almost 84% now. So that has drastically changed things in content filtering. Untangle does a really good job of decrypting HTTPS SSL traffic with our complete package. All this is possible. So let's get back into my slides here to introduce Untangle. As I've said, this is a full-blown UTM network security solution. It's designed for small and medium-sized businesses because it's quick and easy to deploy and it's easier to manage than ever. So this is a low-cost subscription-based software. So we're doing software as a service. So you can get our complete package that offers everything. You can get our apps individually, a la carte. And it is an easy plug-and-play setup now, especially with Untangle's command center that allows you to save configurations in the cloud and then set those up as master templates and push those to other devices, keep their policies updated. We do have multiple channels of support, whether it's our wiki, our user forums, or our support team out here in Colorado. We do provide proactive, actionable alerts, notifications, and reports. Untangle reporting can keep up to a year of information locally. Keep that in mind. We do have advanced support. Like I said, there's a remote support available from our team out here in Colorado. Our award-winning support team. They keep winning awards for us, so I like to throw that in. And we offer some seamless transparency. You know, this is going to let you protect, control, and monitor your business-critical network, prioritize the important things, throttle the unimportant things, and always, you know, block the terrible things. So I've talked about Untangle a little bit. Let's take a look at some of our actual products. What does Untangle offer? Our software platform is what we call Untangle NG Firewall. This is our freemium software platform on top of which you can then install paid modules. So this is a really interesting thing because when you download Untangle, you get a 2-week free trial of our complete package. If you don't pay for any apps, that reverts to the free package. And then you've got a free layer 7 firewall. So the apps in Untangle that sit at layer 7 and do our traffic inspection actually inspect traffic simultaneously. So we use something called virtual pipelining rather than traditional proxy chaining. So basically, when a packet in Untangle is decrypted to HTTP, all of those apps like Web Filter and Virus Blocker inspect that packet simultaneously. They kind of dogpile it and just check it all at once, and then if it's okay, they re-encrypt it and throw it back out. So it's a little bit quicker deep packet inspection than some other products. And then I mentioned again, the Untangle reporting is fully customizable. We can keep up to a year of information locally, and we can always offload that with syslog events or with Google Drive as well. Untangle's reports are extensive. They can be, I think, intimidating sometimes. We'll go through a little bit of that in my demo server here, but if you ever have any questions, we have a ton of documentation. And we also have our support team out here, by the way. So some of the features broken down into categories. If we're looking at the Untangle apps, we break them out into 6 categories. You can see those here. This is what we'll see in the actual demo server when we jump over there. And they're basically just color coded now to be a quick little visual reference for anyone just jumping into one of these products in your actual apps menu on the Untangle server. So I mentioned Untangle's deployment options. Untangle is technically a hybrid cloud product. We do manage this through the cloud with our command center, centralized management, but we're also able to do this on premise with the device. We could also install Untangle in the Amazon cloud now. So we can be a hybrid cloud product, basically. I mentioned virtual pipelining. We don't use proxy chaining, so all of our apps inspect traffic simultaneously. Just makes things go a little faster. And Untangle offers a little bit lighter hardware footprint. You know, this is Linux Debian, the underlying OS, so it can be run on pretty small, cheap hardware, whether it's ours or yours, or you virtualize this, or you're running it in Amazon Web Services. As I just said, we do have public cloud deployments now. So if you want to run in Amazon Web Services with a bring your own license or with a payee license, we have those 2 options available. Scout IQ is another interesting product that we offer. This is Untangle's cloud-based threat intelligence platform. This is what lets us aggregate telemetry data from across all the other NG firewalls that are leveraging this service. When you run the Untangle Setup Wizard, it asks if you want to connect to the Untangle cloud. That's never enabled by default. We always ask. Scout IQ is one of the things that's enabling. So if you need it, obviously, Scout IQ is there in Virus Blocker and Virus Blocker Lite at no additional charge. And the checkbox should be on by default if you've opted in. So what this is doing is it's identifying threats seen in the wild and then basically sharing that information with Untangles around the world that also use this service. So ideally, one Untangle box sees something in Scout IQ and analyzes that and then disseminates that information to the rest of the Untangles that are updated. I've talked a lot about Command Center as well. This is our cloud-based centralized management. Command Center is very, very handy. I use this 20 times a week. I run Untangle at home, and I like to get reporting and maybe remote into my device now and then for some deeper reporting. So I use my own personal Command Center pretty much every day, just from my desk here at work. This is going to let you easily manage multi-site deployments without any additional hardware. This is all hosted in the Untangle cloud. So any eligible device that you add to Command Center will show up there. You see the little screen, the little image on my screen that's showing 3 appliances all online. So if I wanted to, I could, sync their license or sync their changes. I could clone their policies and push them to the other 2. There's a lot of really cool things you could do with Command Center now, and this is just basically your account management as well. So this is included. Your first 5 eligible servers for this will be free. So it's an easy thing to trial as well. So there are alerts, threat history, and audit logs available across your fleet. You get a dashboard, which is a single pane of information. It aggregates all your servers and shows a dashboard widget system displaying the last 30 days of information. As I said, Untangle can keep up to a year of data. Command Center, however, will max out at about 30 days. Again, you can clone, edit, and push policies across your fleet, and this will just reduce management overhead because now you don't have to drive to site J, which is 70 miles away. So now you can do all that centrally, which has been really, really helpful. We also do offer a line of appliances. These are available on our website if you want to look at the pricing or the technical specs, whether you're buying hardware from us or sourcing your own, or trying to figure out if the PowerEdge server in your closet would match the specs for our U150. You can always jump on untangle.com/appliances and go look. We're a very transparent little company. All of our specs are online. All the pricing is online. So if you're curious, jump online and take a look. Our new X series you see on the left is actually been a really interesting experiment. I have the U50XW, the one on the bottom there at my house, and that thing is awesome. The U25X is a $299 Linux firewall. So we do offer a line of appliances. We can go pretty small. We can always go up to about 3,000 devices as well, if you see on the far right with our M3000. So let's pop over to my demo server here real quick. Let's see if I'm still connected to it. So this is demo.untangle.com. I encourage everyone to log on at some point and play around. I think the best way to understand Untangle is to obviously drive it. So if you have something to install Untangle on, I highly recommend going to untangle.com and clicking download and installing it and playing around on the 2-week trial, like I said. Unless you bookmark a different URL within the UI here, you'll get thrown into your dashboard. So this is a much more customizable dashboard than what you'll see in Command Center that we were looking at in those slides. This is a very dynamic system. You can come in here and disable any widgets you want and then add new widgets. If you're, for example, using something like Active Directory to have usernames, you might want to type in username and change it to username reports. You'll see it showing me every app that can offer usernames now. So as I said, this is very open-ended. I want you to make the dashboard exactly what you need it to be. By default, we throw in about a dozen widgets that are, kind of our top 12. Across the top, you see server metrics, host count, etc. You'll see your build information. You'll notice my demo server is actually running in Amazon Web Services. This is a cloud-hosted server. And then down here, we're actually pulling reporting data. So this is all pulling from our reporting engine. These widgets are showing 24 hours maximum of data. So if we come up here, you can see we can max out at 24 hours. So if I need more information than that on this report, I can click here and say open in reports. That's going to take me out to the full report. Now I'm seeing top mobile applications by size. Some of these, obviously, SSL, HTTP, we don't need to necessarily check that. So we'll just click on the legend and remove them. Untangle's Google domain, so some of this is irrelevant as well. So now you can see we have a Craigslist Amazon issue on our mobile devices. So that tells me I can go in and throttle those apps now or block them. If I wanted to, I can completely customize this report. If you click settings, you can go in and change anything about this report and save it as a new one. You can also create reports from scratch in Untangle. So if you click create new, it'll let you go in. I think this is a little steeper learning curve than customizing an existing report. But either way, if you have questions or have trouble, just give us a shout. Support has a lot of documentation about this, and they're always willing to help you walk through reporting and create custom reports. The other extremely handy thing about Untangle's reporting and our dashboard is our new conditions button. This is interesting because I can come in here and drill down into my reports or my dashboard really quickly now. I can just say, I'm looking for this specific user, this specific client, and it's going to change everything around to show me that condition. If I were curious about this Craigslist mobile app, I could say, yes, let's apply this condition to all the reports. So it's the same button as up here. You see how that added that condition? And now it's showing me only the apps that can show that condition in reporting. You see how the others are grayed out? And this is a mobile app. That's actually kind of a strange example for me to use, but you can see that if I wanted to, I could come in and take a look at the network summary or the bandwidth usage, and it would show that mobile app. Another quick tip, you may notice this says Craigslist instead of Craigslist. Anytime I'm working with mobile apps in Untangle, I tend to go copy and paste the actual application signature like this one, because that's obviously not spelled right, and I would never assume they would spell it that way. So just a quick pro tip, I always copy paste those. So that's Untangle's reporting. It is extremely extensive. As I said, we can go back up to a year, and that's going to obviously depend on the apps that you have installed. Untangle also offers a real-time traffic viewer here in sessions. Again, will kind of depend on what apps are installed, but if you want to, you can come hover over columns here, and you'll see there's a lot of information we can present. There's also the sidebar that presents more information. And we're on my demo server here with scripted traffic, so normally you'll see a lot more data flowing here, especially in the sidebar. So what we're looking at on the screen right now is the Untangle Complete package. So this is what we offer for public sector and nonprofit discounts, or for anyone who wants the full-blown package. If you wanted to, you could go to untangle.com/buy and put your own package together. Maybe all you want is web filter and virus blocker. You could do that. You would be very limited with those two apps because nothing is decrypting HTTPS, for example. Virus blocker is currently my favorite use case for decrypting HTTPS because no app in the world can see encrypted traffic, right? We have to decrypt that for these apps to see it. So when we decrypt SSL traffic and we turn HTTPS into HTTP, Virus Blocker is one of those apps that piles on and says, okay, I'm going to call out to Scout IQ for help, and I'm going to call out to the Bitdefender cloud for help as well. And when we're decrypting traffic, we can say, scan these Microsoft docs for viruses, scan these Excel spreadsheets for infected macros that may have malware. That's a legendary delivery system for malware. A lot of that just depends on the nature of the traffic. Untangle is very good at blocking HTTPS without decrypting it. What we can't do is scan viruses. Our web filter can block a lot of HTTPS with SNI rules. That's how I use it at home personally. I don't necessarily send a root certificate to people's devices when they come over to watch a Liverpool game. So I tend to stick to SNI rules in web filter, which we're going to talk about next. So because the chart I showed you let us know that HTTPS encryption has exploded pretty much worldwide, it's important to me to talk about web filter's options and how it works with SSL Inspector. And this obviously would be a very deep dive. We have some Untangle Tech Talks webinars. I just did web filter a week or two ago, and a lot of documentation videos. Decrypting HTTPS is obviously a little bit bigger conversation that I'm going to go into in the next 10, 20 minutes here, but it is crucial. The way Untangle does that is with a root certificate. It makes us what's called a trusted man-in-the-middle deep packet inspector. This is where you download the root certificate, the installer. We do this a number of different ways. So pushing the certificate to a device can be done through Active Directory. It can be done through a captive portal. It can be done manually from the device locally. If you are unfamiliar with root certificate decryption, I kind of describe it like this. If you put the root certificate on an endpoint device, whether it's a laptop, a PC, a phone, what you've done is basically put a key and a lock, and then you walked away. You didn't do anything, quite honestly. You would then need to create a rule to tell us to decrypt that traffic. Because of that chart we looked at, it's no longer always practical to decrypt all traffic. So we don't want to inspect everything coming across port 443. That's not practical. In a really small environment, if you're an insurance office with 2 agents and a receptionist, sure, you could probably do inspect all traffic and it wouldn't really impact things. What it would do in a big environment is probably make everyone fairly miserable trying to log on. It would really, really have a big impact. So we do these inclusions. If I want to, for example, see what people are searching for on google.com, this rule has to be enabled. This rule only tells us to look for traffic coming across the secure sockets layer that has the word Google somewhere in the subject. Then we look. So that lets us decrypt Google traffic. That's what lets us say, oh, someone's Googling, how to blow up a bus. We can then, set up some alerts, take some steps. So decrypting traffic is obviously important. It's not always necessary to block bad things on the internet. So in our web filter, our categories list is coming from a vendor out here in Denver, Colorado called Zavello, and we're at close to 600 million URLs categorized here. This is a really, really, really big database hosted in their cloud. So this isn't something you have to install on your box and maintain or prune. That's done by our vendor. If you're curious, you can see that we block some basic things out of the box: proxy sites, botnets, child abuse. The web filter now also blocks things like malware and online ads and phishing sites. So these are really important because most people, when they think of content filtering the web, all they think about is blocking, pornography. And that's a valid thing, obviously, but sometimes we forget that we need to also protect people, like from malicious traffic. So it's not always common anymore to bypass a device around the web filter completely because they get removed from malware protection and phishing protection. If you're curious how a site is categorized, you can do a quick lookup right here. I hope this says social networking, otherwise that's going to be a pretty big failure. All right, so good thing that says social networking. If you think that's wrong, you can make a suggestion to the database provider, but that's all it is. It's a suggestion. You could say, I went to twitter.com and I think it's a television and movies website, and you would click suggest, and then you would get a very polite email back from Zavello, and they would say, dear sir or madam, you're wrong. Twitter is social networking. We're going to leave it. So you don't have to worry about people changing these things around, admins just getting kind of willy-nilly. The database provider does that. Another quick tip, a URL in Untangle Zavello can be in up to 3 categories. So ESPN is a good example. All the sports just started up again, right? So maybe someone comes and says, hey, I was looking, for the Premier League scores. Are we blocking ESPN? Why would we block sports? You would say, no, we would never block sports, but we're blocking streaming video. So blocking any of those categories will catch ESPN.com. So that's a good case to whitelist ESPN.com. So this is your whitelist. This is your blacklist. You see I'm blocking anything with web proxy in it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say ESPN.com. I'm going to wildcard it. So now that'll be open. We use syntax matching as basic glob matching, so you don't have to go for the whole thing. Pass clients removes a device from the web filter. As I said before, I don't use that much because I like the malware protection, and these rules are able to do even more than that for exemptions and inclusions. This is a basic pass or block for certain devices, certain users, certain sites. And then last but not least, I wanted to touch on our advanced tab. This is where we do have options for SNI filtering. So this is basically hostname blocking. So when we're not decrypting HTTPS traffic, this is still a valid means of blocking traffic. What you lose when you don't decrypt SSL traffic is visibility into traffic that you're allowing. If we want to kind of take a peek at that, if I go into Web Filters Reports into a session viewer, I'm going to go to all web events. So this is just HTTP traffic. You can see here we're getting URI information on some of these because we're inspecting Google traffic, but we're not inspecting Craigslist. So this is the difference right here between decrypting and not. It's visibility. I can still block Craigslist if I want to. I just can't see what people are doing if they're allowed to go there. So that's kind of the difference in Untangle's reporting, as it were. So this is basically an easy way for Untangle to say web filter is going to block HTTPS. We don't necessarily have to decrypt traffic for all of it to get blocked. Things like, for example, pornographic sites like Pornhub, YouPorn, those are HTTPS now. So I can block those with those SNI options. What I wouldn't be able to do is scan it for viruses, right, if I'm not decrypting it. So this is always kind of a case-by-case thing for your organization. Untangle can make you a very big brother in your environment, or you can be a little bit lighter with your touch. So if you want to be heavy-handed or just kind of monitor traffic and throttle some things, we have a lot of different options. So web filter is URL traffic. That's where we block websites by URL or by IP if we need to. Application control, which I've talked about quite a few times, you see right there under web filter, is extremely different. This is kind of a line in the sand I like to help new folks draw in their heads. This is a real distinct delineation to make. Web filter is URLs from a browser. Application control is mobile application signatures. So if we come over here and scroll down into the Fs, let's say, and yes, a search box has been requested in here because we have 1,942 applications available. If I want to, I could come in and I could say the Facebook app is open, but I want to report on all of it. I'm also going to block all the parts of it that people enjoy using. So your Facebook app will technically load, but if you try to post or you try to send a message or watch a video, you'll kind of get nothing. This is a really handy thing. I could also, if I wanted to, tar pit this instead of blocking it. You see this is either or. The basic difference is tar pitting doesn't send any kind of stop command. It never resets a TCP connection. No new session starts. So tar pitting is really, really useful for things like proxy applications. If someone were on your network trying to use something like UltraSurf or Siphon, we would want to tar pit that traffic rather than block it, because blocking it, as I said, starts a new session. Apps like that, users that use apps like that are very intelligent, and the app and the user would know they were being blocked, and they would start trying any other protocol they can to connect. Tar pitting prevents that. It doesn't let the app or the user know they're being blocked. It's really, really handy. Untangle is also a great policy manager. Obviously, we want to be able to segment different groups, different devices, different users. We can do that a number of different ways. We do it through Policy Manager. Basically, you come set up a policy. You just tell it what the policy is. If you want it to inherit rules from another policy, it can. And then we create a rule to tell it how this traffic is isolated. So you can see there's no rules here. So by default, none of those policies are even working. So I could do this a number of ways. You can see we can do IP addresses, interfaces, usernames, tags. I could say, from noon to 1 on Fridays, maybe people's Netflix app gets throttled less. So there's a lot of conditions we can pull from in here. Some of the most interesting ones are directory connector, user, in group. So if I was connected to my Active Directory, I could say the group is teachers. This is the rule for teachers only to push them through their policy. So if someone's signing in to Active Directory and they're in the group teachers, they will always go through the teacher policy. So that's a very absolute thing when we use authentication. We can do that, like I said, a number of ways. From there, what you see is the apps that those folks get in their respective policy. We're on my default policy now, which is the top level kind of baseline. If we go down into that teacher policy, you'll see that the apps are physically grayed out because they're inheriting those from default, except they needed different web filtering. So all we have to do is come and install that app for their policy. It's a really, really simple thing. You could create as many policies as you need to. I'm honestly not sure if there's a limit. I've seen 40 or 50 in a device. As I said, though, within a policy, maybe you only need a couple of quick little inclusions or exemptions. Let's say I'm a teacher, but we're blocking social networking for teachers, and I need access to it for the lesson I'm teaching this week. So we'll pretend my username is coming from Active Directory. This is all made up. It's hypothetical. And so now this one user would probably need access to the entire category of social networking. In case he authenticates on his phone or tablet, we would also want to open up those mobile apps. So this is all just within the web filter module. And yes, I have learned to spell Instagram incorrectly like they do. It's Instagerm from application control. You can see I can flag, and then my only actions are block or pass. So these are real quick little ways of excluding or including folks within a policy if you don't want to create a ton of policies or an extra one for just one person needing a different rule. I always encourage people, like I said, to log on to this server and play around. It's always live. There's no password, demo.untangle.com. There's a lot you can learn on the demo server, obviously, but there's no way to save changes and things like that. So please, if you're able to, download Untangle and play around. Remember, when you download Untangle, you're actually on our trial license, which gives you live support for that entire duration. So you don't have to wait on a ticket to be replied to or an email from me or anything. You can always just pick up the phone and call us as long as you have that live support module installed right down here. That's most of the apps I wanted to focus on. Shannon, do we have any questions floating out there that we could answer real quick?
Let's see, not too many. Most were pretty generic questions. There are some questions about the installing. So when we install, does it connect to the internet right away?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Yes. So when you install Untangle, you'll plug the box into the internet, basically. You don't have to put it in line on the network, but you'll run through a setup wizard, which is going to let you register the device to your account. So if you haven't already created an untangle.com account, the setup wizard will actually make you do that. So, excuse me, that's a really good way for us to say, okay, you're installing Untangle. We need you to register this to your account so you can manage everything. So we basically force that in the setup wizard. So if the box isn't online, yeah, it won't be able to register. It won't be able to pull down any licensing or any, NTP data, that kind of stuff. So it's always recommended to have the box plugged into the internet when you install. Yeah.
Great. There are some questions about the free versus paid apps. I don't know if you want to show on the website kind of where people can get info on that.
Yeah, we can do that. So on untangle.com, if you hover on NG Firewall, there is a software packages tab. So if you click on that, it'll actually show you a side-by-side comparison. And the free package is a very interesting piece of freeware. You get intrusion prevention, firewall, things like ad blocking, OpenVPN, Tunnel VPN. So you get some really interesting options. If all you need is a firewall and a captive portal, you could use our free package. Then maybe you decide, well, we want to maybe throttle those Wi-Fi users on the captive portal. You can add bandwidth control to it. And in my experience, that's a pretty common thing. People download Untangle, they use the free thing for a while, and they kind of step through the paid apps in baby steps, and that's fine. That's why Untangle's so modular. You can go complete package, but the free package is a valid thing too. Then you can kind of be basically a la carte and put your own packages together. This is available right there on our site, though.
Great. And just want to reiterate, you can just go on the top navigation as well. The download button all the way on the right will give you kind of the details. Whether you are installing for home or business, it requires its own separate server. So you cannot put it on like a home computer that you're hoping to use for something else. So
That's a good point.
it
Yeah.
will wipe everything out. So just for everyone
Yes.
who wants to try it at home or before you buy it, it will take out, it requires its own server. So just make sure you have something lying around, or you can run it in a virtual environment.
Yep, it's going to actually format whatever you install it on if it's an existing piece of hardware, and it will overwrite that with Linux Debian. So yeah, don't throw it on your home PC. That would be a bad thing to do. But like Shannon said, virtualizing, it's a really great way to test. I mean, you can download VirtualBox from Oracle for free right now and install Untangle and play around. So there's a lot of ways to do it. And as Shannon said, we have a lot of information on the download page on what your options might be. And if you need support or help from the forums, there's links right there.
Great. You mentioned the trial, so I think that's about it. We'll see if there's any other questions. There's a question, what's the preferred method for installation, USB or CD?
No, there's no preferred method. It just depends on your hardware. USB is by far more common now, especially if we're installing on a server. Not a lot of servers have CD drives anymore. I personally prefer USB nowadays. I think that's way more common. I don't know if either build is more or less reliable though.
And we do have a list on our wiki, is our technical documentation that has the specific hardware requirements if you want to do it on your own server. So just to make sure, you don't.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we didn't really touch on this. Untangle's licensing, everybody, is its unique concurrent IPs in a 24-hour period. So when we say devices over here, this is unique devices being filtered through those apps. So we can go real small. This is Linux Debian. So if you can get even, a little personal PC with a second NIC in it, that could be your Untangle box in a small environment. But as Shannon said, please don't try to install that on your home computer where your QuickBooks and your games are. Whew.
Yeah, that would not be an ideal experience.
No.
So we can continue, and I'll let you know if there's any other questions that
Yeah,
pop.
thank you. Yeah, a couple more slides. So we talked about a lot of this stuff throughout the slide deck and the demo. For the record, Untangle, I think, is probably the easiest to deploy UTM that I've found. I'm obviously a little biased, but I've used Sophos, I've used a Sonic Wall. This is just so simple. excuse me, especially with some of the things we're getting to now with Command Center. You know, everyone in our industry is moving towards zero-touch things. The way the industry is moving is into the cloud. You know, so that's why we're in Amazon Web Services. You know, we're looking at things like Azure and Google Cloud at some point. So Firewall as a service is a cool new option. Being as easy to deploy as we are just makes it even simpler. You know, so to me, I almost don't care where Untangle is deployed anymore because it runs so smoothly in all these different options. For example, 2 years ago, if you were telling me you wanted to virtualize Untangle, I would have, you know, been trepidatious about that. But it's not like that anymore. You know, times have changed. All of our builds are extremely stable, so it's a really, really easy to deploy and use system. And as I said earlier, we're pretty transparent. You know, you get seamless upgrades. There's no cost for software upgrades or anything like that. All of the databases and vendor signature sets that we provide update on the back end, excuse me, at various times. Bitdefender, for example, for virus blocker updates a couple times a day now. This is as flexible as I've kind of described here over the last 10 minutes or so. This is a software-based solution. Untangle's a software company. This is a little install that can be thrown anywhere for the most part. I mentioned VirtualBox earlier as an example because that's how I learned Untangle. I just threw VirtualBox on my MacBook and I downloaded Untangle and I played around, you know, while I was kind of a new employee. So that's a valid way to test. You know, we support VMware here at the support office. That's what our OVA is built for. It's what our engineers use. If you're trying to throw our ISO into Hyper-V or Citrix Zen, something like that, we can still help with the Untangle itself. Your hypervisor, you know, we have a lot of steps on the forums and in documentation for different things too. And again, you know, we do have the cloud-based centralized management, and then the reporting on the server itself is part of our free package. So centralized management and reports are included, and you don't really need any additional hardware for either of those options. And if you are brand new to Untangle, like I hope some of you are for this, you may think, you know, who the heck are they? We're not new, you know, we're not a startup or anything. This is Untangle's 15th year. We were established in 2003, and you can see we're starting to win quite a few awards and getting some good word of mouth. I'm our brand representative on spiceworks.com. They are kind of all about Untangle now. You know, we're their favorite software firewall, their favorite content filter. You can see our community forums are growing, and they're actually really helpful. If you go to the Untangle user forums, you'll get an answer really quick, and that answer may come from the founder of our company or our director of quality assurance. So the forums at Untangle are. I don't want people to feel intimidated by posting on the user forums as a noob or something like that. It's a very helpful community. This is a Linux community. They're there to help. They want your ideas. They want your experiments to play with. It's not like posting, you know, on Reddit or something where you get made fun of instantly. This is a really, really helpful community of Linux pros. And just a few quotes. We have these on our websites under the resources tab as well. You know, we can see we're getting into quite a few different industries. We're big in education and public sector because of those discounts we offer. So, you know, everything from a little city hall in a tiny town somewhere in rural America all the way up to, you know, like a full city and their entire infrastructure. So it just kind of depends, but if you want to go take a look, you can see there's all kinds of case studies on our YouTube and on our website now under the resources tab. That's about it for me. Thank you guys for joining. I'm going to pass this back over to Shannon so she can talk about this cool little promo we have.
Yes, thanks, Chad. Sorry, there's the last few questions that came in.
Any questions? Anything we should answer?
Just asking about the VMware and some other things that are supported. We officially only support VMware because that's what we.
Yeah, VMware ESX, ESXi are the official ones. That's what the OVA file is built for. If you download our OVA and just throw it in VMware ESX, it builds the whole thing for you. But you can throw our ISO into pretty much any hypervisor I've found.
Right. So that's kind of what the question was. So we're excited. It is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's October. It started yesterday. So it's National Cybersecurity Month here in the United States. And so Untangle is happy to assist with that as we want to make sure all of our customers, including ourselves, are doing everything we can to ward off hackers from getting into our system. So we have a sweepstakes going on for the whole month of October. that, for those that want to participate, they can enter in to win a Untangle gear box, which has some very exclusive gear that is not available to the public at all, as well as an Amazon gift card. We also have blogs that we're posting for the whole month of October, in line with the DHS's week themes that they're doing throughout the month. So check those out on our blogs, and hopefully those are give you some good tips on how to secure not just your business environment, but also your home and what you can do to protect your home networks. Let's see, there's just a couple questions that came in. Will Untangle support HP server raids?
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, might email us that one.
Yeah, I would suggest emailing us that. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. So please just email us at support@untangle.com or sales@untangle.com, so we can better address that question and kind of nail in to figure out what you're asking. Again, thank you so much for attending this. As Chad mentioned, we have tons of resources. We have the demo server, we have our wiki, which is our technical documentation. And as Chad mentioned, we have the forums, which is our live community where tons of our own employees answer questions along with our active customers. So hopefully this was useful to you. If you have any questions or want to get started on a trial, or if you want a very specific demo, Chad also gives those as well to people that maybe if you're in a school or want to see how it'll work specifically in your environment. Then we can set that up for you. So please just give us a call or email us. And if we didn't get to your question, I do apologize, but please email us and we'll be happy to follow up. Thanks again, Chad.